talk some Georgia Bulldog recruiting. There's been a ton of action over the last week, and we're going to cover it all, from the Carson Beck drama to the UGA coaches on the road seeing the #1 high school player this week. We got Rusty Mansell from Dogs HQ on this video. But before we get started, Georgia fans, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're here talking Dogs recruiting all year long. We want you guys to be a part of it. All right, let's bring on Rusty Mansell, Dogs HQ. Rusty, we had you on the show last Sunday, and since your appearance on the show, the Branch brothers committed. Safety Adrian Maddox flipped that commitment from UF to Georgia. Wide receiver Noah Thomas, big-time wide receiver in the portal, is now a Dog. And quarterback Carson Beck is now a Miami Hurricane. So let's talk about that UGA QB room. What's your thoughts right now on the room? Just general thoughts on what still remains.
I mean, it's unproven, but these are these guys were highly recruited for a reason. I mean, Gunnar Stockton, you get to see a small sample size, and first ever game you ever play, you play against Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, really. And it's crazy. Gunnar Stockton's first 6 quarters of playing major college Division I quarterback, he went two quarters against Texas, and he went 4 quarters against Notre Dame. And that's not, that's a tough task for anybody, but I think right now, I do think Gunnar Stockton kind of has a leg up on this job. I don't think it's you just hand him the keys. Ryan Puglisi is a young man that was very highly recruited, really got down to Georgia and Ohio State for him. And I remember talking to him at the Nashville 0-3 Elite Series, the first year we had it. Go back and look at that roster, who we had in Nashville, oh, by the way. But talking to Ryan Puglisi, in that kind of setting, he said, look, man, I had to basically tell Ohio State not to call anymore. I was done. I was going to Georgia. So it kind of tells you, how vested he is in trying to win this job. So I think right now, as we talk about this and tape this, is a two-man race. They're obviously bringing in Ryan Montgomery, a freshman, and Hezekiah Melander, a kid out of Georgia, was kind of under the radar, moved in from Arizona to do his senior season. So they're going to have 4 guys in there, but I don't know how this thing's going to play out. But I do think right now, if you ask me, I think Gunnar Stockton is the favorite going into spring practice.
All right. So I know we live in this new realm of college football where the transfer portal exists, NIL exists, and nothing is what it used to be. But, I want to revisit Carson Beck, kind of go behind the scenes of this. So he announces for the NFL, but then says he's going to enter the transfer portal. Now, Carson Beck started essentially the last 2 seasons for Georgia, but it didn't seem like Georgia was an option for him. What was going on? Did Georgia contact Carson Beck about coming back, or did Kirby and the staff, were they just moving forward without him regardless in 2025?
Listen, I'm sure there were some conversations had, but here's the thing that nobody really talks about. The time crunch for Carson Beck to make the decision he made to go in the NFL, much less to make the decision on what surgery. He went and saw like 4 specialists around the country, from what I was told. He and his team decided on the doctor out in California who did his surgery. What's his time frame? I think for Carson Beck declaring for the draft, he bought himself some time to make a decision. And I think the combination of Miami missing on some targets, which they did, to be able to sell them, look, we did this with Cam Ward last year. Cam Ward was going to the draft. We talked him out of it. He came back. Look what he did. I think for Carson Beck individually, it was either going to be Miami or he was going to the NFL. And I think there's a lot of connections there. Obviously, his girlfriend's there. He's a Florida kid. I think for Carson Beck, on both sides of this, I think he was done at Georgia. He played 5 years there. He did a really good job of what he did. 2 years starting. I think when Georgia, when he got hurt and he declared, I think Georgia went all in with Gunnar Stockton. You saw the comments from the players, like they were ready for this guy to be the guy, and he's got a leg up. But I think it was just for both parties. I think people are having a hard time seeing that. For both parties, I think it was the best situation, that this is where he's going to play, and Georgia's moving in a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, just me as an outsider watching some of those games when Gunnar Stockton came in, it looked like the offense started humming a little bit, and the guys rallied around him. So yeah, you could kind of see that the program,
and really, truthfully, Josh,
the entire program moved on.
Yeah,
and was ready.
And really,
for
truthfully, Josh, like everybody he came in with, all those guys are gone. Like his last connection, really, I think was kind of like Tate Ratledge and those guys. I mean, Gunnar Stockton lives with Oscar Delp and all those guys. I mean, this is kind of his room. That's why I think he's got a leg up on the job, but Ryan Puglisi's pretty close to these guys too. So I just think it's one of those deals, man. People have kind of have a hard time, Carson Beck. I mean, I think he felt like it was time to move on. The only place I think he plays college football is Miami. Yeah. And let me tell you something, he's going to get paid. He's going to be in the sun, and his girlfriend's there.
Can't beat it. Sounds like a great final year of college to me. Imagine making $3 million being with your girlfriend in Miami for your last year of college.
I guarantee you it's more than that. When it's all said and done, I guarantee you it's more than that.
Yeah. So good for Carson Beck and good for the Georgia football program. All right. Let's stay on the QB topic, but kind of switch gears to high school. Offensive coordinator Mike Bobo, he was here in Nashville, not to see me. He was here to see Jared Curtis. Where do the Dogs stand with the former commitment and number one quarterback overall?
Well, this is a guy they circled early. You know what I mean? You really look at this class, and it kind of, even when Juju Lewis was in that class, it was kind of like Georgia was all in on Jared Curtis. And I think that made him feel I think it made him trust the staff. You know what I mean? I think that's why he committed early. You look at Georgia, they zeroed in on Jared Curtis after he threw for them, after Mike Bobo went to Nashville, watched him throw, all those things. I think that Jared Curtis knows that Georgia wants him. They have been all in on him, committed and then decommitted to open things up. Listen, I know this. Am I predicting he's going to end up at Georgia? I'm not, because there's a long way to go with this. Yeah. But I know there's a lot of people in his circle that really like Georgia. There's a lot of people in his circle that really like Mike Bobo. It does not surprise me that Mike Bobo, the first day he was out on the road, he went to Nashville and spent as much time as he possibly could in that home with Jared Curtis.
All right. What's this high school recruiting going to look like this offseason? Like, is there a big junior day coming up, or is most of the action going to take place around spring practice? How's Georgia approaching the 2026 cycle?
Well, February is dead. So what everybody tries to do, I think what everybody tries to do now is everybody tries to have a big junior day in March. Then you start having those May evaluation days where you can go watch practice. I think that's more important. Josh, you and I have been doing this so long. We have seen the different cycles now of 2 signing days, but we've also seen the importance of June visits. And when we have our Nashville On 3 Elite Series, to me, at the end of every May, when those guys come to Nashville, they're about to start taking their OVs. To me, that's when it gets real. You start finding out who's really in and who's really not, because they start having those important meetings with that head coach on Sunday. When you start talking numbers, you find out real quick we're either in with him or he's not going to end up here for sure.
Yeah, it's like the months of January, February, March, April, May. Those are kind of like the warm-up laps, and then June 1st is when the race really starts, and you can feel that. It's like a season, and then the playoffs begin. You can just feel the intensity kind of ratchet up in recruiting after June 1. So that makes sense. So let's wrap it up. Is Georgia done in the portal? Do you see any more major additions coming for the Bulldogs?
I don't want to butcher his name, but I think it's Marquise Grace, the South Dakota edge defender. I think Georgia had him on campus the other day. And this is a guy, especially with Damon Wilson leaving, that kind of caught some people off guard too. That leaves some snaps there in that room at edge. This is a guy, I think Georgia Tech, Kentucky. I know USC was trying to get involved there. Kansas State was trying to get involved there. It's going to be interesting where he goes, but I do know that Georgia had him on campus. They're in communications with him as we tape this, and I think that's a guy to watch. But I do think this, even if they do get him, that's the position I would watch post-spring, that May portal window for Georgia at edge defender, because they like to add another guy in that room. They lost Michael Williams. Now you lose Damon Wilson. They lost some guys there. They lost some very talented guys there. And they got some young players now that were highly recruited as well. And I'll give you an under-the-radar name. A lot of people don't know this. Quintavious Johnson. This guy was 6'5", Josh, 250 pounds, playing high school quarterback at Mays High School in Atlanta. Georgia works him out. People are like, what are they doing? They sign him. I'm telling you, there's some buzz about this kid. He had a really good freshman year. He played all special teams. Just tuck that name away as it goes in. Kirby Smart has had a way of finding these under-the-radar guys, and all of a sudden, this guy's a high NFL draft pick. I watched Ladd McConkey dominate an NFL game yesterday. Don't count out Quintavious Johnson just yet at an important edge position.
All right, great stuff, Rusty. Georgia fans, talk to us. How are you guys feeling about the Carson Beck departure? How are you feeling about the quarterback room in general? Let us know. Comment section below.